Hi, and welcome to the Teaching and Learning Archive, Session 6. Today's session, we're going to stay with the Teach Like a Champion, and we're going to look at positive framing and precise praise. Both these techniques are about getting students to meet your expectations in the classroom. Now, they could be behavioral or they could be academic. The underpinning thesis for these techniques is that people are motivated by the positive far more than the negative. However, there is a disclaimer here, and that is it doesn't mean you shouldn't be meticulous at responding to unwanted behaviors. So the techniques we're looking at are really about trying to circumvent or get students on the right path before those negative behaviors accumulate. If they do, we've got to respond to them in the robust manner that we always would. So three techniques we're looking at are narrating the positive, precise praise, and positive framing. And their success will really depend on expectations that you've made clear to students. So it's really important that we get those expectations right and that we've described them to students. So these are, as we saw last time, these would be my door to do now expectations. So I make it clear to students. Or I might have some academic ones. So here we've got some academic ones which are going to be for solving maths problems. So there they are. So I'd make that clear to students first. So have clear expectations is the very starting point, and then describing them to students. So there's real clarity there. And then after that, we can start narrating the positive. And narrating the positive is really helping students see the normality of positive behavior when it happens in the classroom. Some do's and don'ts for narrating the positive. The real do is you're just describing the positive behaviors that you want and that you've described to students without a value judgment. So it is about them meeting your expectations. You don't need a value judgment attached to it because they are just meeting your expectations. So if they are entering the classroom as I want them, which is silently, I might just whisper, "Thanks for coming in quietly." A group of boys come in through the door, they put their bags in the rack and say, "Thanks for coming in properly today, lads." And they sit down. So there's that little narration, which is just saying you're meeting my expectations. And it says to the others, which are in the classroom are just coming in, it reinforces that message to them as well. You can also use it after direction and catch it early. And what in this particular example, we might think of the maths problem. If I've just described to the students how I want them to solve maths problems, and I've set them up, they just started working. And as I'm just wandering the class, just circulating through the classroom, I might just say, like, "Well done, Freddie. Thanks, Freddie. You've circled the information in the question." And then as I a little bit further around the classroom, and Emily is just writing out the formula. So you're just narrating those positive behaviors as they're happening. So as you're getting further around the classroom, those positive behaviors are being narrated out loud. Don't narrate mediocrity. Don't circumnarrate. So circumnarrate might be where you've got, I don't know, a group of 7 students working really well, and one in the center is not. So don't kind of narrate positive all the way around the outside of the student, which is not doing it. You can obviously narrate the positive, but you have to kind of do something different, possibly with the student who's sat in the middle, not meeting your expectations. Don't drone on. And so the fear here is that we're constantly kind of narrating the positive in the classroom. We drone on, and actually our noise is going to become the distraction in the classroom. So be careful of that. And don't narrate when procedure has become routines. The idea of narrating the positive is to create strong routines in the classroom. Once the routine is there, that particular routine is there, you don't need to narrate it every time. It's there to show students what you expect from them. So that's narrating the positive. Precise praise is a little bit different, and really is trying to differentiate acknowledgement from praise. So acknowledgement is where students are meeting our expectations, and in those instances we don't really attach the sort of value judgments of "well done, great job, you're coming silently today," because the act of doing that gives a kind of surprise. I'm surprised that you've done it. So you attach the real praise comes for when students are sort of surpassing, or consistently surpassing what we want of them. So that's that difference between acknowledgement and praise. So when we're doing praise, we can and do and should attach those value judgments to it. Great work today, outstanding effort, etc. Make sure use of praise and acknowledgement is intentional. So do have it as you're kind of planning lessons. You're thinking, actually, I want students to be better at this process or this procedure or this particular work, then have an intention there. And linked to that it would be objective aligned praise. So yeah, very clearly linked to what you're trying to establish in the classroom. So give your praise. But then when you give the feedback, that's great work because you have gone through that process of circling things in the question, stating the formula, showing you're working out, etc. So you have that objective, link the praise to it. It's powerful also to try and modulate and vary your delivery. So sometimes that kind of very public acknowledgement could be diluted if you're constantly doing it, if you're constantly giving public praise. And actually, that's not really a special thing. Sometimes it's even more special if you just wander up to a student, get down to the level, and like authentically, do you want me to explain to them, describe to them why they're doing such a great job in a very private way. So you modulate between and vary between the public and the private and how you might do this. Just think about how you do it sometimes to have a greater effect overall. Finally, don't overuse, I guess, would be what we don't want to do is kind of become a parody in the classroom. So if we're overusing it, it can become empty or disingenuous. So there is a kind of take care with it, but incredibly powerful techniques if you practice them. Positive framing is really about when things may be going a little bit wrong with a student. So a student head on the desk, etc., and not engage in the lesson. And really it's about trying to reframe the negative behaviors into a positive behavior that you want to see. So instead of walking up to students, say, you just had your head on the desk, you've done no work today, you're not listening, I might say, right, let's get you sat up, pen in your hand, looking at the board, and when I write under the camera, I want you to do exactly the same. So you're trying to create the positive behaviors you want rather than the negative. So things to practice, so they are worth practicing. So I want you to have a little practice, intentionally practice these three techniques. And the final slide I'll leave you with will have the little guidance on it. So that's the guidance we've been through today. So if you wanted to kind of clip that and stick it somewhere to remind yourself, then that might be a good option.